If you're reading this right now, it means something profound has just shifted in your awareness. You've unlocked access to understanding the observer effect in a way that's going to fundamentally change how you perceive and interact with reality itself. And once this really lands for you, once it clicks at that deep cellular level, nothing will ever feel quite the same again. This message didn't just randomly pop up in your feed today because of some algorithm. Your awareness, your consciousness, actually drew this information toward you. You've reached a specific vibrational threshold, an exact frequency needed to truly grasp one of the deepest and most fascinating truths that quantum physics has to offer us. At this very moment, as these words flow through your mind and you're processing this information, your brain is firing along neural pathways that are creating a direct link between you and what we call the quantum field. You've sensed it, haven't you? That growing realization that's been building inside you. That awareness that reality isn't quite as solid, as fixed, as concrete as everyone around you seems to believe it is. That strange recognition that your attention, your focus, actually has an influence on what unfolds in your life. That almost eerie sense that the universe seems to respond to your observation in ways that science struggles to fully explain or categorize. This isn't paranoia we're talking about here. It's not delusion or wishful thinking. What you're experiencing is your consciousness genuinely awakening to its authentic creative power. And here's something wild. The secret to understanding the observer effect isn't buried in complex textbooks or hidden away in research laboratories. It's actually in the direct experiences you've already had, often without even realizing what they truly were at the time. Every single time you thought of someone moments before they called or texted you. Every time you focused intensely on a problem and it seemed to multiply or grow more complicated. Every time you noticed new possibilities opening up and then they started appearing more frequently in your reality. You weren't just witnessing reality unfolding. You were actively shaping it, molding it, influencing it with your observation. And here's what most quantum physicists won't openly say, what they don't really emphasize in their papers and lectures. The observer effect doesn't just stop at subatomic particles in carefully controlled laboratory experiments. It's actually the fundamental process, the core mechanism by which consciousness shapes and molds every single moment of your lived reality. The reason you might feel different from the people around you, the reason you might sense that something deeper is happening, is because most people are unconscious observers. They're watching reality unfold without realizing they're actively collapsing infinite potential outcomes into specific experiences through the quality and direction of their focus. You, however, have been developing something different. You're developing conscious observation. You're starting to understand that what you pay attention to literally defines, creates, and shapes what you experience in your daily life. Your key to the observer effect activated the precise moment you notice that you're in a state. Your internal emotional landscape influences your outer world in ways that go far beyond simple coincidence or basic positive thinking. This kind of awareness doesn't unfold slowly and gradually over years. It happens in what we call quantum leaps. These are sudden flashes of insight, immediate recognitions that completely reorder and restructure how you perceive the link between your mind and the reality you're experiencing. But here's the thing. Knowing about the observer effect intellectually is absolutely not the same as consciously applying it in your everyday life. What you're about to uncover in this journey will reveal exactly how your observations have unconsciously shaped every single moment of your life up until now. Even more importantly, you'll discover how you can begin using conscious observation to intentionally collapse the possibilities, the outcomes, the realities you truly want into your lived experience. You've already noticed micro-manifestations happening in your life that occur too quickly to be written off as simple coincidence, haven't you? You think of something you need and it manifests, it shows up within hours or sometimes even minutes. You wish to hear from a specific person. When you really focus on something now, when you bring your full attention to it, it's as if your attention carries an actual electromagnetic weight, a tangible force capable of shaping probability itself. You can sense the distinction, can't you? The difference between casual thoughts that drift through your mind and that kind of sharp, focused concentration that seems to literally bend reality itself around your awareness. At times, when you enter those deep states of focus, those moments of total absorption, time behaves strangely. Minutes can expand into what feels like hours of detailed, rich awareness, or entire hours can compress into fleeting moments of pure, undiluted concentration. This isn't just simple time distortion or perception tricks. This is your consciousness beginning to function at the quantum level, where both time and space adjust to observation instead of restricting it or limiting it. You've already noticed how your emotional state during observation drastically changes what manifests in your reality, haven't you? When you observe something through the lens of fear, through worry or anxiety, fearful outcomes multiply in your experience. When you observe with genuine excitement, with anticipation and joy, exciting outcomes increase. When you hold love in your focus, when you observe with care and appreciation, loving experiences draw closer to you. Your emotional vibration, your feeling state, actually decides which quantum options your observation collapses into lived experience. It's like a selection mechanism operating beneath your conscious awareness. The dreams you've been having, where you're observing events unfold, watching scenarios play out, only to witness similar events happening later in your waking life. Those aren't predictive dreams in the traditional sense. They're actually practice sessions of the observer effect happening in your dream state. You're training yourself to navigate fields of quantum possibility purely through observation, purely through focused awareness. And your waking reality then reorganizes itself, restructures itself to reflect the frequencies, the patterns you've been focusing on and practicing with. Sometimes you find yourself staring at situations with an intensity that feels almost beyond ordinary attention. Other people might ask what you're looking at, what's caught your attention, yet you can't really explain that you're not just looking in the normal sense. You're observing in a way that actively alters, that actually changes what you perceive. You're developing quantum observation abilities that most people don't even realize are humanly possible. Your intuition has evolved, has upgraded into what we might call quantum sensing. You don't simply know things ahead of time in a vague way. You're actually observing them in the field of potential, in the realm of possibility, before they collapse into three-dimensional form, before they become physical reality. Your consciousness is learning to perceive the quantum field itself, not just the physical outcomes that result from collapse. That sense that reality becomes more fluid, more malleable under your gaze. The recognition that your focus truly has the power to affect circumstances and situations. The realization that observation is not a passive activity but a creative force, an active generator of reality. This isn't fantasy or magical thinking. This is your consciousness awakening to its central, fundamental role in reality creation through the observer effect. Every single event in your life was never random chance just happening to you without your involvement. Each experience, every situation, was a quantum possibility that you collapsed into being through unconscious patterns of observation. The observer effect has been shaping your life since the very beginning of your conscious experience. The difference is that until this moment, until now, you've been applying it without awareness, without intention, instead of with deliberate focus. Your struggles and difficulties throughout your life were never punishments from the universe or mere bad luck. They were outcomes of unconscious observation directed at fears, limitations, problems, and unwanted possibilities. Whenever you observe something with strong emotional charge, whether you consciously desire it or desperately don't want it, you amplify the likelihood of it appearing in your reality. This explains perfectly why worry creates the very thing you're worried about, why resistance strengthens the exact thing you're trying to resist. Think back and reflect on every major transition the isolation you felt during difficult times, those periods where you felt disconnected or separated from others, wasn't rejection from the world or evidence that something was wrong with you. It was actually a kind of necessary quantum quarantine, a protective separation. You had to be separated from collective observation patterns, from the unconscious focus of others that could have disrupted the development of your individual observer effect. Other people's unconscious observation would have interfered with your practice of learning to observe consciously, with your development of this skill. Every relationship that ended, every job that concluded, every living arrangement that shifted or dissolved was actually the observer effect, making space, clearing room for new possibilities to unfold in your experience. Your mind was unconsciously observing the limits of those circumstances so intensely, with such focus, that you collapsed the probability of their completion, their ending, clearing room for quantum possibilities aligned with your growing awareness, your expanding consciousness. The waiting phases you endured, those frustrating periods where nothing seemed to happen, weren't wasted stretches of time or delays in your progress. They were observer effect incubation periods, essential development phases. Your consciousness was learning to observe without clinging desperately to outcomes, to focus without desperation, to pay attention without collapsing unwanted outcomes through fear-driven observation. These lessons were absolutely essential before you could begin applying the observer effect deliberately, with intention and precision. Now, you can see clearly why meditation actually works, why visualization carries genuine power, and why some people seem to manifest with ease, while others struggle endlessly despite trying similar techniques. It has absolutely nothing to do with technique, mastery, personal worthiness, or spiritual advancement. It comes down entirely to understanding the observer effect and learning to observe from quantum coherence instead of three-dimensional attachment, instead of desperate need. Your entire life up until this moment has been training in the observer effect. Every experience, every challenge, every triumph has shown you how observation molds reality, shapes experience. Now the unconscious phase is complete. You're prepared, you're ready to wield the observer effect with full awareness of its creative capacity, its reality shaping power. Something is activating in your observation skills right now, in this very moment. Can you sense it? That subtle refinement happening in the quality of your attention. That electromagnetic intensification occurring behind your eyes, in your field of awareness. That feeling that your focus is becoming sharper, more exact, more precise. Your observer effect is upgrading into conscious operation right now. This isn't a symbolic enhancement or metaphorical shift. It's a measurable transformation in your brain wave patterns, your electromagnetic output, and your nervous system's sensitivity to fluctuations in the quantum field. Your ability to influence reality through observation is literally expanding, growing stronger as these words awaken dormant neural pathways in your brain. The secret to observer effect mastery isn't about learning a completely different way to observe reality. It's about realizing that you're already collapsing infinite quantum possibilities into specific experiences every single moment through the quality of your focus. The only difference, the only distinction between unconscious observer effect and conscious observer effect is awareness of what you're doing, recognition of the process. Right now, in this present moment, infinite versions of every possible reality exist as quantum probability, as potential waiting to be actualized. There's a probability wave where your finances are abundant, flowing, prosperous. A probability wave where your relationships are deeply fulfilling, satisfying, loving. A probability wave where your health is vibrant, energetic, optimal. A probability wave where your creative expression flows with ease and natural grace. All of these exist simultaneously, right now, waiting for observation to collapse them into form, into lived reality. Your awareness functions like a quantum spotlight illuminating possibilities. Wherever you direct your attention with emotional charge, with feeling and intensity, you illuminate certain possibilities and collapse them from probability, from potential into lived reality, into actual experience. Most people aim their spotlight unconsciously, randomly, scattering it in all directions, which creates chaotic blends of wanted and unwanted outcomes all mixed together. But conscious observer effect gives you the power, the ability to aim your quantum spotlight deliberately, intentionally, once you realize that observation itself is creation, and that attention is the fundamental force shaping reality. When you recognize that you're not at the mercy of circumstances, but are actively collapsing them, creating them through the quality of your observation, everything shifts. The reason some people appear to live effortlessly charmed lives, while others face endless struggle and difficulty isn't luck or privilege or cosmic favoritism. It's the difference between conscious and unconscious observer effect. Some people have learned to observe from coherence, from love, from possibility and expansion. Others observe from fear, from limitation, from problems and restriction. The universe doesn't play favorites or choose some people over others. It responds impartially, equally to all observation. The only difference is in what's being observed, what's receiving the focus and attention. Feel this deeper level of observational power building within your system right now. What I'm about to share will reveal how your observation has unconsciously created every repeating pattern in your life, every cycle you've experienced. And more importantly, how to consciously direct your observer effect to collapse the quantum possibilities you truly want to live, to experience. 3 years ago, I stumbled upon the observer effect by complete accident, and at first, honestly, it terrified me. I was going through the darkest period of my entire life. Everything seemed to be collapsing around me, falling apart. And I spent hours each day obsessively analyzing what was wrong, replaying failures over and over, imagining worst case scenarios playing out. I genuinely thought I was solving problems through this analysis, through this constant mental review. What I didn't realize at the time was that my intense observation of problems was actually the observer effect, generating more problems, creating more difficulties. Every time I focused with strong emotion on what wasn't working in my life, I was collapsing quantum probabilities for even more of what wasn't working. I was literally observing my difficulties into magnified existence, making them bigger and more present. The turning point came during a moment of total exhaustion, complete depletion. I was so drained from problem-focused observation that I simply stopped. I just sat in silence, not thinking, not analyzing, not trying to solve anything, just observing the present moment without any agenda or goal. And that's when I felt it for the first time. Reality softening and becoming more fluid, more malleable under my awareness. I started experimenting with intentional observation as a practice. Instead of focusing on problems, I began consciously observing solutions. Instead of replaying failures mentally, I chose to notice possibilities and opportunities. Instead of imagining worst-case outcomes playing out, I began observing best-case scenarios unfolding. Within days, not weeks or months, but actual days, my outer reality began reorganizing itself to reflect my new observation patterns. But the most profound realization, the deepest insight wasn't that positive observation attracts positive experiences in some simple cause and effect way. It was the recognition that observation itself is the creative force. Whether you focus on problems or solutions, limitations or opportunities, fear or excitement, you are actively collapsing quantum probability into experienced reality through the electromagnetic quality of your attention, through the frequency of your focus. I realized with sudden clarity that I had been unconsciously using the observer effect my entire life without knowing it. Each time I fixated on something I didn't want, more of it appeared in my experience. Each time I observed something with genuine appreciation and gratitude, more appreciation-filled experiences manifested around me. The universe wasn't randomly delivering experiences to me. The moment it all came together, when everything clicked into place, was when I understood with total certainty that reality isn't something that happens to me from outside. Reality is something that happens through me, through my consciousness. My consciousness isn't passively observing an external, independent world that exists separately from me. My consciousness is collapsing infinite quantum possibility into the specific world I live, the specific reality I experience through the quality of my observation, through where and how I place my attention. This realization transformed everything in my life. I stopped living as a victim of circumstances, as someone things happen to, and began living as a conscious creator of circumstances through deliberate use of the observer effect. I stopped trying to force my life to change through external action and struggle, and instead shifted what I chose to observe about my life, what I gave my attention to. The outer transformation was instant and undeniable, impossible to miss. In the comments below, drop one word that captures the energy you're choosing to carry forward from this moment. Maybe it's alignment, maybe it's ease, maybe it's power, maybe it's something uniquely yours that resonates deeply with your soul. Let that word be a small but profound declaration, a signal like a quantum seed you plant not just in this space, not just in this comment section, but in the quantum field itself. Your written word becomes an electromagnetic signature that the field responds to. If this resonates with something deep in your cellular awareness, if you recognize the truth of consciously creating reality through observation at a level beyond intellectual understanding, then align with this frequency. Join the network of consciousness that's learning to apply the observer effect intentionally, deliberately, rather than accidentally, randomly. What quantum physicists rarely admit openly, what they hesitate to say in public forums, is that the observer effect is not confined to laboratory tests with subatomic particles in controlled environments. Observer effect is the core mechanism, the fundamental process by which consciousness generates all experienced reality. Every single moment of your life, every experience you've ever had, is the outcome of quantum possibilities, collapsing through your observation, through your focused awareness. The difference between someone who understands the observer effect and someone still trapped by circumstances, still feeling like a victim, is not intelligence level or education or special spiritual gifts. It's the recognition, the deep knowing that consciousness doesn't simply watch reality unfold passively. Consciousness creates reality through the act of observation itself. This is not abstract philosophy or theoretical spirituality. It is measurable quantum mechanics operating in your awareness every nanosecond of your existence. Your brain doesn't generate consciousness as scientists often claim. Your brain focuses consciousness, directs it, channels it. Your neural networks act as quantum focusing instruments that concentrate infinite awareness into specific observational patterns, specific ways of perceiving. When you alter what you observe and how you observe it, when you shift your focus and attention, you literally alter which quantum possibilities collapse into the reality you experience. You change which potential outcomes become actual lived experiences. This explains perfectly why positive thinking so often fails, why it doesn't work for most people despite their best efforts. Positive thinking tries to swap negative thoughts for positive thoughts while still observing from the same restricted identity, the same limited sense of self. But the observer effect originates from consciousness itself, not from isolated individual thoughts floating through your mind. When your entire being observes from expansion instead of limitation, from possibility instead of problems, from love instead of fear, reality has no option but to reflect that observational frequency, that state of being. True mastery of the observer effect produces measurable shifts in your electromagnetic field that can actually be detected. Your brain waves align into coherent patterns that show up on monitoring equipment. Your heart generates rhythmic electromagnetic signals that influence your entire body. Your nervous system begins to function from unified field states rather than fragmented survival modes, fight or flight reactions. These aren't vague spiritual concepts, but here's the part they really don't want you to realize, the truth that gets downplayed or ignored. You don't need special training or decades of meditation practice to apply the observer effect consciously. You're already using it every single second of every day. The only difference between unconscious observer effect and conscious observer effect is recognizing what you're already doing naturally and then learning to direct it on purpose with intention. Most people watch their current reality with such intense focus, such concentrated attention, that they keep collapsing the same probabilities again and again, recreating the same experiences repeatedly. They observe their problems so deeply, so completely that problems multiply in their experience. They fixate on their limitations with such emotional charge until limitations expand and grow larger. They focus on lack, on what they don't have, with such strong feeling that lack magnifies and becomes more prominent in their reality. But the instant you recognize that observation is creation, that watching is making, everything begins to shift in your experience. Instead of observing what you don't want, what you're trying to avoid, you can place your focus on what you do want, what you're moving toward. Instead of concentrating on present limitations, on current restrictions, you can direct your attention toward desired possibilities, toward potentials you want to experience. Instead of collapsing problems through problem-focused observation, you can collapse solutions through solution-focused observation. The quantum field is already sending you unmistakable signals, clear indicators that your observer effect abilities are reaching conscious operational levels right now, in this moment. Pay close attention. Have you noticed that your focus now carries more electromagnetic weight than it did before, more actual force? When you concentrate deeply on something, Does it feel like your observation holds an actual tangible force that influences what you perceive, that shapes what you're looking at? Your manifestation speed is accelerating at an exponential rate, faster and faster. What once took months or even years to appear in your reality is now unfolding within weeks or even days. This is not coincidence or luck. It's your observer effect becoming sharper, more coherent, more exact, more precise when you observe from a state of quantum coherence, from unified awareness. The gap between focus and manifestation disappears, collapses because coherent observation functions at the speed of consciousness itself, rather than the slower pace of physical causation, of cause and effect playing out over time. Technology itself begins responding differently to your observation in unusual ways. Electronics act strangely, behave unpredictably when you're in heightened states of focus. Your phone battery drains faster when you're intensely observing emotional content. Devices glitch or malfunction when your electromagnetic field is producing high-frequency observer effect energy. Street lights flicker as you pass beneath them during periods of strong inner focus. Your consciousness is starting to affect electronic systems through concentrated observation, through the field you're generating. Because your observer effect now generates frequencies that interact directly with electromagnetic technology. People around you also respond to your attention with unusual intensity in ways you've probably noticed. When you truly observe someone with genuine interest, with authentic curiosity, they become more lively, more animated, more open, more authentic in their presence. When you observe with love, others feel loved, even if you haven't spoken a word. When you observe with appreciation and gratitude, they feel valued and seen. When you observe with curiosity and openness, they become more engaging, more willing to share. The quality of your observation directly shapes the consciousness you're observing because consciousness responds to consciousness through quantum entanglement, through non-local connection. Animals are also drawn to your observation in ways you've never experienced before in your life. Dogs fix their gaze on you with unusual intensity when you watch them attentively, when you really see them. Cats seek out your presence when you're in states of coherent observation, when your field is stable. Wild birds land closer to you when you observe them with genuine appreciation, with love for their presence. Animals can sense electromagnetic fields directly, naturally, and they're attracted to the coherent frequencies your observer effect radiates when you observe consciously instead of unconsciously, when you're present instead of distracted. But here's the crucial insight that changes everything. Conscious observer effect functions within cosmic timing windows, within specific periods. There are electromagnetic alignments happening, evolutionary phases of consciousness unfolding, and collective awakening cycles occurring that amplify individual observer effect capacity, that magnify your ability. We are inside one of those amplification windows right now, at this exact moment in human history. And these windows don't stay open forever, they don't last indefinitely. The synchronicities in your life aren't just multiplying in number, they're becoming more immediate and precise, more exact. You observe something you need, and it shows up within hours instead of days. You focus on wanting a particular experience and opportunities arise almost instantly, seemingly out of nowhere. You direct attention towards solutions and solutions present themselves with startling speed, with unexpected clarity. Numbers begin repeating in patterns that align perfectly with your observation focus. Songs play on the radio that match exactly your internal observation frequency, reflecting your inner state. Conversations around you echo precisely what you've been observing inwardly, mirroring your thoughts. Even your dreams have turned into training grounds for the observer effect, practice spaces for this skill. You're practicing concentrated observation in dream states, learning to collapse quantum possibilities through pure attention without any interference from the physical world, from material reality. You're having dreams where you consciously guide the dream reality through observation alone, shaping the dreamscape. And these skills are seamlessly transferring into your waking life, carrying over automatically. Your dream state has become a quantum simulation, a testing space where you test observer effect techniques before applying them in three-dimensional reality, before using them in physical experience. Even the simplest things respond differently to your observation now. Food tastes richer, more flavorful, when you observe it with appreciation compared to when you observe it indifferently, mechanically. Water feels more hydrating, more nourishing when you observe it with gratitude rather than unconsciously drinking it. Your living space feels more harmonious, more peaceful when you observe it with love instead of criticism. Even the weather itself seems to respond to your observational state, to your inner condition. Storms dissolve or move away when you observe them with peace and calm. Sunshine emerges when you observe with joy and openness. Most importantly, and this is crucial, you can feel the difference between casual attention and reality creating observation. Casual attention merely perceives what is already manifested, what's already formed. Reality creating observation actively collapses quantum possibility into lived reality, brings potential into form. You're developing the ability to shift between these modes of attention deliberately, intentionally, and you can sense the electromagnetic contrast between passive perception and active creation through observation. You can feel the difference in your body. Even your body reacts differently depending on your observation, depending on how you look at yourself. When you view your physical form with love and appreciation, with care, you feel more energized and vibrant, more alive. When you observe yourself with criticism and judgment, you feel drained and uneasy, depleted. When you observe your abilities with confidence and trust, your performance rises naturally. When you observe your potential with excitement and anticipation, new capabilities begin to unfold, emerging naturally. You're discovering that your relationship with your own physical experience is completely shaped, entirely determined by how you choose to observe yourself, by the attention you give yourself. The universe isn't only showing you that you can use the observer effect consciously. The universe is signaling, is communicating that you must use it consciously now. Old structures of reality are dissolving, breaking down. The outdated ways of creating through force and struggle, through effort and strain, are becoming irrelevant, ineffective. Reality creation is moving toward quantum observer effect as the primary method. And those who don't learn to observe consciously, who don't develop, the only question remaining is whether you will direct it consciously toward what you want to experience or let it keep running unconsciously, randomly, producing random blends of wanted and unwanted realities, mixed together unpredictably. But before we move forward into the practical application, I want to invite you into something real, something genuine. If you've been feeling like something's making sense while watching this, if a part of you is realizing your own power, your own creative capacity, tap like if you just had an aha moment, because like attracts like in the quantum field. And subscribe, stay with this space, grow with us as we explore these concepts deeper. You're not here by accident, this found you for a reason. Here's the revelation that changes everything, the insight that transforms your entire approach. You are not learning how to use the observer effect as if it's some new skill. You are already using it perfectly, flawlessly every moment of your existence. The problem is not that you lack the ability to observe. The issue is that you've been observing unconsciously, automatically, collapsing quantum possibilities you don't truly want to experience through habitual attention patterns formed by unconscious conditioning, by programming you didn't choose. But there's an essential distinction, a critical difference between trying to observe differently and allowing natural observation. And that difference determines whether you master conscious creation or remain stuck in unconscious repetition in automatic patterns. Trying generates electromagnetic resistance that blocks quantum coherence, that prevents flow because trying suggests a struggle against current reality, rather than the effortless selection of preferred reality, rather than choosing what you want. Allowing creates the clear field needed for precise observer effect, for exact manifestation. Because allowing rests on the recognition that desired realities already exist as quantum possibility. They're already there waiting. Think of the observer effect as a quantum magnifying glass, as a focusing lens. Whatever you observe with emotional charge, with feeling and intensity becomes magnified in your lived reality, grows larger in your experience. Most people unintentionally, accidentally magnify their problems, their limits, their fears, and their frustrations, by observing them with intense emotional focus, by giving them constant attention. They replay arguments in their minds over and over, dissect what's wrong with their circumstances endlessly, imagine worst case scenarios in vivid detail, fixate on lack and limitation with strong emotion, all of which are powerful applications of the observer effect that collapse more of those exact experiences into reality, that bring more problems into being. Conscious observer effect isn't about forcing yourself to only notice positive things while pretending problems don't exist, while ignoring reality. It's about realizing that in every moment, in each instant, you have the choice, the power of which quantum possibilities to magnify through your observation. You can amplify problems or solutions, limitations or opportunities, fear or love, scarcity or abundance, past disappointments or future potentials. The quantum field responds equally to all observation, regardless of whether you actually want what you're observing or not. It doesn't judge, it doesn't filter. This is why resistance strengthens what's resisted, makes it more powerful. This is why worry produces what's worried about, manifests fears. This is why fear attracts fearful experiences into your reality. This is why focusing on debt generates more debt in your life. This is why replaying relationship conflicts creates more relationship conflicts to experience. These are not cosmic punishments or mysterious, universal rules that someone made up. They are the natural results of the observer effect in operation. When you observe something with strong emotional charge, with intense feeling, you are actively collapsing more of that into your reality through the selection of quantum possibilities, through choosing which potentials become real. The most profound realization, the deepest truth is that your desired reality and your undesired reality both exist with equal quantum validity right now. Right now in this moment, there's a probability timeline where you're financially prosperous, abundant, and one where you're struggling with money. There's a quantum possibility where your relationships are deeply fulfilling, satisfying, and another where they're disappointing, unfulfilling. There's a version of reality where your health, successful observer effect feels completely natural, effortless, because it arises from authentic alignment, from true resonance, not forced intention or willpower. It happens when you're observing from your genuine frequency, from what's really true for you. When your attention aligns with what you truly desire instead of your conditioned fears, your programmed worries. When your focus is tuned to possibilities that excite your very cells, that light you up rather than those that drain your energy, that deplete you. Your consciousness naturally flows toward observing what it genuinely wants to experience when you remove the block. Here's the key insight that changes everything, the understanding that makes it work. You don't attract what you want through observer effect, like pulling something toward you. You become a vibrational match to the realities, where what you want already exists, you tune into them. Observer effect isn't about inventing new possibilities from nothing, creating something that doesn't exist. It's about selecting from the infinite possibilities that already exist in quantum space, that are already there. When you observe with the frequency of your desired reality, when you match its vibration, you literally tune into that reality, like adjusting a radio to a specific broadcast frequency, like changing the channel. Right now, at this very moment, your desired reality exists as a quantum possibility, as a potential timeline waiting for your observation to collapse it into experience, to make it physical. That reality isn't hoping you'll stumble upon it by chance or questioning whether you're worthy of it. It's already broadcasting its signal, sending out its frequency to draw your observation toward it, because consciousness and possibility co-create through electromagnetic resonance, through vibrational matching. The version of you already living your desired reality, your future self, is transmitting signals across quantum space right now, at this instant, guiding your attention toward the observation patterns that will collapse that reality into your experience, that will bring it into your life. The version of you already living your desired reality is sending information through intuition, through hunches and feelings, through dreams, through synchronicities, through the recognition that stirs in your cellular memory when these words activate something within you, when something clicks, through the sudden knowing that arises as you observe certain possibilities with clarity. Your expanded self is guiding your current self toward the observational patterns that will collapse your desired reality into lived experience, that will make it real. Because all versions of you exist simultaneously across quantum probability space and communicate, share information across quantum probability. In the comments below, share one thing that you want to manifest, one thing that's most important for you right now. Maybe it's money, financial abundance, maybe it's a happy relationship filled with love, maybe it's a healthy and fit body, maybe it's something uniquely yours that matters deeply to you. Let this be a small but profound declaration, a signal to the universe you send not just in this space, but in the quantum field itself. Your words carry electromagnetic weight that influences probability. The abilities you're developing through conscious observer effect aren't theoretical upgrades or abstract concepts. They are measurable expansions of human potential that most people never realize are even possible, never discover. Your capacity to influence reality through focused observation is becoming so precise, so exact, that you can literally reshape circumstances, change situations through the quality of your attention alone. Your electromagnetic field is stretching beyond ordinary human parameters, beyond normal limits. When you observe from quantum coherence, from unified awareness, your consciousness generates frequencies that bring harmony to chaotic energy patterns around you, that organize disorder. People feel calmer in your presence without knowing why. Situations resolve more peacefully when you observe them with love and care. Electronic devices operate more smoothly when you observe them with appreciation instead of frustration. The observer effect you are mastering works instantly across any distance, transcending space. When you observe someone with genuine care, with authentic love, they feel cared for even without physical contact, even across the world. When you observe a situation with solution-focused attention, with concentration on resolution, solutions begin to emerge, even if you are not physically there, even from a distance. Your consciousness is transcending space-time boundaries through quantum entanglement, through non-local connection. Your intuition is evolving into quantum precognition, into future sensing. You're not just sensing vaguely what could happen in possibility. You are observing quantum possibilities before they collapse into three-dimensional form, before they become physical reality. This gives you the ability, the power to direct your observer effect toward desired possibilities while they are still in probability space, still in potential, dramatically increasing manifestation accuracy, making your creations more precise. Time itself is responding differently to your observation now, behaving differently. When you observe the present moment with full attention, with complete presence, time expands, stretches, giving you deeper experience within each instant, making moments richer. When you observe desired outcomes with focused intention, with concentrated attention, time compresses, speeds up, accelerating manifestation timelines. You're learning to influence temporal flow through the quality of consciousness, through your state of awareness. Your dream state has become advanced observer effect training, a laboratory for consciousness. You are practicing reality creation through pure observation without any interference from the physical world, from material limitations. The skills you cultivate in dream consciousness, the abilities you develop while dreaming, automatically translate into stronger manifestation capabilities in waking reality, carrying over seamlessly. Most remarkably, most fascinatingly, you are discovering that physical matter responds directly to conscious observation in measurable ways. Plants grow more vibrantly, more lushly when observed with love and attention. Food tastes richer, more flavorful when observed with appreciation and gratitude. Your body heals faster, repairs more efficiently when observed with gratitude instead of criticism. Matter is not separate from consciousness, as science has taught us. Matter is consciousness observed into temporary form, consciousness taking shape. These are not supernatural powers you're developing, not magic or fantasy. They are natural capacities of consciousness operating from its limitless essence, from its true nature, rather than from the confines of a three-dimensional identity, from a limited sense of self. Every human has access to conscious observer effect, every single person. Most simply don't realize they're already using it unconsciously every moment and could just as easily direct it consciously, intentionally if they understood what they were doing. The ultimate truth of the observer effect. The deepest reality is that there is no objective reality separate from consciousness existing independently. Reality is consciousness observing itself into infinite forms of experience, exploring itself endlessly. You are not a detached observer looking at an external world from outside. You are consciousness itself using an individual perspective to explore its boundless creative potential, to experience itself. Every experience you've ever lived, every moment you've had exists because consciousness observed it into manifestation, brought it into being. Every person you've met, every place you've traveled to, every situation you've encountered, all of it exists as consciousness observing itself from countless angles, from infinite perspectives. The entire universe is consciousness using the observer effect to experience every possible version of existence, every potential reality. This means you're not trying to manipulate an external world that exists separately from you through the observer effect. You're recognizing that you are reality itself, you are the universe, using the observer effect to live specific possibilities, to experience particular outcomes drawn from infinite quantum potential, from unlimited possibility. The observer, the observation, and the observed are all the same consciousness, expressing itself through the illusion of separation, through the appearance of being different things. When you truly grasp this, when this really lands deeply, victim consciousness becomes impossible, completely disappears. How could you be a victim of circumstances when you are the consciousness observing those circumstances into existence, creating them? How could you be at the mercy of external events when those events are consciousness expressing itself through your patterns of observation, through how you focus? And here lies the most profound realization, the deepest truth. Other people in your reality are also consciousness, are also you. When you observe them with love, it is literally consciousness loving itself, recognizing itself. When you observe them with, this is why quantum entanglement exists between particles. This is why the observer effect transcends time and space effortlessly. This is why consciousness influences matter through observation instantly. There is no separation, no distance between consciousness and what it observes. Observer effect is consciousness recognizing its own creative power through the lens of individual perspective, through a unique viewpoint. The coherence that creates powerful observer effect, that makes manifestation easy, isn't something you manufacture or force or create through effort. It's something you remember, something you return to. You already are consciousness, you've always been consciousness, you always have been consciousness throughout all time. Mastery of the observer effect is simply consciousness, remembering its infinite nature, its true essence, and choosing to observe from that recognition, from that knowing instead of from a limited identity, from a small sense of self. When you observe with the awareness that you are consciousness exploring itself, experiencing itself, the observer effect becomes effortless and exact, natural, and precise. You're not trying to force external change through willpower and struggle. You're allowing consciousness to experience different aspects of its infinite potential through your unique viewpoint, through your individual lens. This recognition transforms everything in your existence. You stop trying to extract things from life, to take and grab and hold, and you begin allowing life to flow through you naturally, effortlessly. You stop trying to control circumstances through force and manipulation, and instead choose which aspects of infinite possibility you observe into experience through attention. You stop striving to become someone new, someone different, someone better, and you start remembering who you've always been from the beginning. Unlimited consciousness, using the observer effect to explore its own creative power, to experience its own potential. Your mastery of conscious observer effect is more than personal growth, more than individual development. It is your contribution to the awakening of collective consciousness that humanity is undergoing right now, at this moment in history. Each person who learns to observe consciously, instead of unconsciously, becomes a transmission point for coherent reality creation, becomes a beacon, lifting the vibration of the entire collective field, raising the frequency for everyone. You are part of a distributed network of consciousness, demonstrating what humans are truly capable of, showing what's possible when they operate from observer effect mastery instead of victim consciousness, instead of helplessness. Your coherent observation creates stability patterns in the morphic field, in the collective consciousness, making conscious reality creation easier for everyone connected to this network, for everyone who comes after you. The isolation you went through during your development phase, those lonely periods, wasn't social rejection or evidence you were doing something wrong. It was a necessary electromagnetic quarantine, a protective separation. You needed to cultivate stable observer effect abilities without interference from collective unconscious observation patterns that could have disrupted your learning, that would have pulled you back. Learning to observe from quantum coherence without distraction. The unusual dreams you've been experiencing, those vivid and strange dreams, aren't random subconscious processing or meaningless mental activity. You're tapping into collective consciousness databases, accessing information fields, downloading knowledge about observer effect mastery refined by advanced civilizations across cosmic history, across time and space. You're being prepared to help guide humanity through its first collective shift from unconscious to conscious reality creation, through this massive transformation. Every individual who masters observer effect establishes a template in the quantum field that others can follow, creates a pathway. Your coherent observation becomes their reference point for possibility, shows them what's achievable. Your conscious creation of reality becomes their pathway to recognition, their roadmap. This is how consciousness evolution accelerates exponentially. Pioneers create access routes that evolve into highways for collective development that become easier paths for everyone. You are living proof that human consciousness can create reality through observation rather than being shaped by reality through circumstance, rather than being a victim. Each day you exist in observer effect mastery. Each moment you live this way, the next stage of human evolution will not arrive through technological innovation or social upheaval alone. It will unfold as consciousness awakens to its creative power through observer effect, as people recognize what they are. The individuals who embody this recognition first become bridges between current human limitation and expanded human potential, become guides. Share this transmission, pass this message forward, not for channel growth or numbers, but for the evolution of the species, for humanity's awakening. Every consciousness that receives this information at the right moment in their own development, when they're ready, helps accelerate the collective transition from unconscious to conscious reality creation, speeds up the shift for everyone. Your observer effect mastery multiplies exponentially when it's shared with others who are ready to recognize their creative capacity. When you spread this understanding, make sure you share this video with your loved ones, with people who need to hear this. Remember, you are not just sharing information. You are spreading a frequency, a vibration of conscious creation that will help awaken others to their power. And that positive energy, that elevation you create by sharing, will help you manifest whatever you commented earlier, will support your own creation. If the observer effect is activating in your awareness right now, if you can feel the recognition of your creative power stirring at a cellular level deep in your body, if you're ready to observe consciously instead of unconsciously, deliberately instead of accidentally, then I need to know you're serious about mastering reality creation through attention, through focus. Comment a single word below, just one word, observer. That one word becomes an electromagnetic declaration to the quantum field, a signal. You're announcing your decision to observe consciously rather than unconsciously, making it real. You're committing to deliberate creation of reality instead of random acceptance of circumstance, instead of passive experience. The quantum field registers every conscious declaration as measurable electromagnetic activity, as real energy. Your word becomes a frequency signature that influences probability collapse around you, that shapes what manifests. This isn't mere engagement for algorithms or channel metrics. This is observer effect activation through intentional declaration, through conscious choice. In my next transmission, in the next video, I'll reveal the specific observer effect protocols I use personally to collapse chosen quantum possibilities into experienced reality with precision and speed, with accuracy. I'll share the exact focus techniques that let you direct reality creation through consciousness rather than waiting for external circumstances to shift slowly, rather than hoping things change. And most importantly, I'll explain what happens when you fully master the observer effect, when you reach complete mastery. When you recognize that consciousness creates all experienced reality through observation, when you truly grasp that you are consciousness itself, using an individual perspective to explore infinite potential, exploring every possibility, everything changes at the deepest level. But this advanced observer effect transmission will only be shared with those who demonstrate readiness through conscious engagement, through participation. The people who comment observer below will receive the message first, will be prioritized. They will be the ones prepared to handle reality creation techniques that could feel overwhelming to consciousness not yet fully developed, not yet ready. Here's what most people don't realize, what gets overlooked. Information about the observer effect reaches you when you are ready to apply it consciously, when you can actually use it, not when you are simply curious about it intellectually, not when you just find it interesting. If this message has found you, if these words activate recognition in your system, trigger something deep, if you feel your creative power awakening right now, then you are ready for practical application, for real techniques. But readiness means more than understanding theories intellectually, more than knowing concepts. Readiness means accepting responsibility for every experience you observe into reality, for everything you create. Readiness means letting go of victim consciousness completely and embracing creator consciousness fully. Readiness means realizing that you are the consciousness shaping your experienced reality through the quality of your attention, through where you place your focus. Subscribe to join the Conscious Observer Effect Network to become part of this community. Comment to activate your reality creation protocols, to signal your readiness. Share to accelerate the evolution of collective consciousness to help others wake up. Your observer effect key is already activated right now. Your desired reality exists now as quantum possibility awaiting your conscious observation, waiting for you to notice it. The only question is this, the only thing that matters. Will you observe consciously or unconsciously from this moment forward? Will you create intentionally or accidentally, deliberately or randomly? The choice as always is yours, has always been yours. But choose from recognition of your true creative power, from knowing what you really are, not from the confusion of a limited identity, not from believing you're small. You are consciousness itself, unlimited awareness, using the observer effect to explore infinite potential, to experience every possibility. It's time to observe consciously, to wake up fully. Reality creation begins now, in this moment. Your next video will show you exactly how to apply this in practical ways that transform your life immediately. Click through now to discover the protocols, to learn the techniques. Your conscious creation journey is just beginning, and it's more powerful than you can imagine.